This podcast does not provide medical advice. Please listen to the complete disclosure at the end of the recording.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Everyone Dies, the podcast. I'm Marianne Matzo.
And I'm Charlie Navarrete.
So grab yourself a spot of tea, some dessert, some cookies, relax, and thank you for spending some time with Charlie and I. Charlie has a news update, and in the second half, we're going to discuss the idea of the new normal. And later in our third half, we're going to be drinking with death. Charlie, I heard that tonight you're going to be seducing us with Death's favorite wine, chocolate wine. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, I can. This is my favorite wine of choice, and especially for one of our death entities. Choco Vine subtly combines fine French Cabernet Sauvignon grapes with rich chocolate and cream from Holland, paired together to create a decadent, silky smooth drink. Choco Vine can be served on the rocks or as the main ingredient to an array of sinful cocktails. You can Google where to purchase this wine in your own neighborhood. Please go to everyonedies.org and send us your own death by chocolate recipes to share with others. Also, we appreciate your questions, jokes, and anything else you want to tell us.
This just in. Charlie has a news update.
Well, it's good to see the budget is increasing sound effects. So, but on a more serious tone, the Northeast of course, the United States, the Northeast accounts for 2/3 of U.S. In the U.S. of COVID-19 deaths. The number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in the U.S. has reached at least 842,224, while deaths climbed to 46,785, according to the
Update. It's over 50,000 now.
Oh dear. So over 50,000, according to data from...
Yeah, since we wrote this, yeah.
According to data from Johns Hopkins University. A state-by-state comparison of novel coronavirus mortality showed the Northeast accounted for almost 2/3 of total deaths, while New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut had the most fatalities per 100,000 people.
And I printed out the state-by-state look at the number of people who have the virus and the number of deaths per 100,000. And currently it's New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, and then Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, Charlie, were you going to say something?
No, just that we'll have that posted on the website, right, where people can look at...
Right.
Okay.
And they, John Hopkins, what they do with this is they update it continuously throughout the day. Oh, I guess it's every 15 minutes. So it's John Hopkins University Centers for Systems Science and Engineering. And so every 15 minutes they're updating what's going on. I live down in Oklahoma, and the South and Southeast really has not... we've had our deaths, but not in the numbers compared to the Northeast.
Do you think that will
Oklahoma?
Do you think that'll change?
Oklahoma is on the death on the list. We've had 179. I'm thinking it's coming this way, and it just hasn't made it down to our part of the country yet, which is known to be a poorer part of the country, a less healthy part of the country. We have the stroke belt that runs through here. We have Tornado Alley that runs through here, but that doesn't have anything to do with COVID. So it's a higher level of obesity, diabetes, heart disease than the rest of the country. So I'm very nervous about it coming down here because our population's health is not as good as it could be to survive this. So in our second half, we're going to talk about the new normal. and I titled this No Mud, No Lotus, or What's All the Fuss About the New Normal. I've worked in oncology for a long time, and patients would come in to talk with me. I was in supportive care, palliative care, and they would talk about how their oncologist would say to them, well, this is your new normal. And frankly, it really would piss off people because they would say, well, I was perfectly fine with my old normal. I didn't need a new normal. And now I've got a new normal, and it's a new normal I don't want anything to do with. And so don't tell me to get used to this because this is my new normal. And we would spend sometimes a lot of time talking about that. And I hear those same words now in reference to the coronavirus. This is your new normal. And frankly, I can really relate to that idea of I was happy with my old normal. I never asked for anything to change. But situations come along, and we have to adapt, and we have to be to change, or else we're going to be really unhappy and, I don't know, maybe drink a lot or sleep a lot or something. Our sense of normal changes in happy circumstances, like when you have a baby, you know, if you're in a partnered relationship, or even if you're not, and you have a child, that changes everything. The things that you would take for granted doing, like sleeping and having clean clothes, really just goes away. Getting married, graduating, you know, if you've been a college student and you're graduating, you're excited about that new normal, but it's also pretty nerve-wracking and scary. Retirement, death of a partner, or if you have a serious diagnosis of your own. So you're in a time where the new normal is being forced upon us. We don't want it. We don't want to adapt and change. And we have to realize that where we were and what we knew and how we looked at life is not going to ever be the same. Every experience we have changes us and changes how we look at the world. Adaptation is something that humans who are able to survive become very good at. That whole idea of survival of the fittest is just this, is being able to adapt to whatever the environment or life or circumstances throw at us. We have to adapt so that we can survive and live the best life that we can. Despite the reason for our needing to adapt to a new normal, as well as the situations that we were fine with the old normal, the rules and the sense of normalcy may change daily. And we've really seen that with this coronavirus. What we thought one day, the next day has not been true. You know, it can be routine for us to lay in bed on a Sunday reading the Times and drinking coffee, but how often do you have that after you've had the birth of a child? I mean, you might lay in bed and read the Times, but you might have a kid sitting on your head while you're doing it. Always having someone to talk to or eat lunch with can disappear with our retirement. And the diagnosis of a terminal illness, feeling sick has in fact become our job, with the scans and the doctor's appointments and all the treatments that come with it. You don't really have time to have a life when you have a very serious illness because you're constantly attending to the illness. We can torment ourselves with these changes and rebel against any changes as we desperately try to keep everything the same. I always laugh at people who've never had children and say, my kids are never going to do that. Or that's, you know, I was talking with my daughter about something about white countertops because I'm fixing my kitchen. And she said, get white countertops. I said, are you nuts? Do you know what white countertops are like? She says, well, I'll have white countertops and my kids will keep it clean. It's like, oh, please let me record you saying that. Because it's easy to think that when, you know, you haven't been through it. One of the first stages in adaptation is accepting the fact that we really do not have control over the things that are changing our lives. It's that old Yiddish proverb, we plan, God laughs. Adaptation and survival depends on our accepting the circumstances in which we're placed. One way to do this is to live in the moment or to practice mindfulness. It's really talking to yourself and reminding yourself, you don't have any control over this. You want to have control over this. You wish you had control over this, but you don't. So living in the moment, or mindfulness, is this Buddhist vision of experiencing the moment and knowing that we're on the right path and not lost in confusion about life in the present or fears about the future. It's the energy of being aware and awake at the present moment. In other words, relax and enjoy your precious life. Thich Nhat Hanh, who's a Buddhist, would talk about mindfulness meditation, walking meditation. And when I was working, when I would walk from the parking structure into the hospital, I would do my mindfulness meditation. And it was really simple. What it was he would say, you take a deep breath and you say, I breathe in and I know I'm breathing in, and I breathe out and I know that I'm breathing out. And that's what you're doing as you walk. You just pay attention to your breathing in and your breathing out while telling yourself essentially what you're doing. And in that way, you can kind of bring down the vibrations of your brain and relax yourself and relax your body. You can do that when you're walking the dog. Like I said, I would do it when I'd walk into work and walk out of work. Those were my meditation times. Some of the changes that you may temporarily experience as you adapt to your new normal are: 1, if you must make plans, keep them short-term and tentative. Feel the joy in your life wherever you find it. We scuba dive, we do lots of things. We make plans for, we're going to do this and then we're going to do that dive trip or whatever. We've had to learn that, we might be going on a dive trip this year, we might not, because we just don't know, and we have to embrace that we just don't know. And, what surprises, good or bad, does the world have in store for us? Second, you may have difficulty handling your emotions and find yourself experience what feels like all of the emotions at once. You may find that you're eating more or less, that you're sleeping more or less, and you might be tempted or involved in substance abuse. Whatever the change, let yourself sit with it for a while. Think about what you're feeling. Are you feeling anxious or depressed? And don't just react to it. Be mindful of it, experience it, name it, and give yourself that permission to feel whatever it is that you are feeling. The new normal requires us to adapt and to change. It's really the survival of the fittest. Pain runs deep, but so does resilience. Any thoughts about that, Charlie?
No, Marianne, that's... I say no because I'm just taking in everything you said, that idea of mindfulness. Because there are times it's like, okay, I tell myself, okay, take a deep breath, but to add, okay, now I'm taking a deep breath, and now I'm letting it out. I don't know. It just makes it more, in the moment. It's not just simply, okay, take a deep breath and then keep going. No, you have to take a deep breath, as you were saying, and then be mindful that, okay, now I'm breathing in. Now I'm breathing out. Because if you just say I'm taking a deep breath, it doesn't mean anything. Even if you take a deep breath, nothing changes. But as you say, you have to be mindful at that moment, just to calm down, be in, it's an acting too. It's like, be in the moment. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just what's happening at that moment, and that. So I'm sorry, what?
So I was going to say, I was just going to repeat that mantra. I breathe in, and I know I'm breathing in, and I breathe out, and I know I'm breathing out.
Yeah, that's great.
The other thing that is really helpful for mindfulness and for meditation, I've always been one of those who I try to meditate and my mind goes in 7,000 different areas. But one thing that's really very helpful is the adult coloring books. And I've had patients who've just scoffed at me. And I said, look, I give them one page of an adult coloring book. I said, go home and do this. And then when you come in your next visit, tell me about it. And I've yet to have anybody who didn't then go buy an adult coloring book. Adult coloring books are very complicated coloring books. They're very fine. They're built that way so that you have to concentrate on what you're doing. So it's a mindfulness exercise. You pay attention to coloring in each of those pieces. And when they've looked at that on brain scans, rather, the brain waves when you're doing adult coloring are like the brain waves of somebody who's in a deep meditative state. So you're resting your brain when you're doing that, and you're not even, it's not hard because if you're concentrating on the coloring, you'll get there. And it is incredibly relaxing to just sit and do that coloring. So, my favorite shopping is Amazon. Because really, where else are you going to go nowadays? But, go to Amazon, put in adult coloring. You want a really complicated book, but it can be about anything. My oldest daughter has one of all swear words, but they're beautifully intricate. And get some pretty pencils and just try that, and you'll find how much more relaxed you are.
Yeah, just the thing. If we think about the things we used to do as kids, coloring books. When I was a kid, I had remember the GI Joes, not the little rinky-dink things they have now, but these things were like massive. They were like a foot tall.
Well, they were like Barbie's.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Barbie saw it. So doll.
If you want to think of it, Barbie in
how small were you, Charlie?
On steroids and not that small. Barbie on steroids and drag. Yeah, there you are, GI Joe. But I just remember I could entertain myself with 2 or 3 of these things and all the little equipment that they would sell with it, and just create stories and scenarios, and that was it. I was just focused on that and just enjoying it. And it's too bad because now people, a lot of times, they have to multitask, and I understand you have to, especially right now, you're at home, you have to maybe work from home, but at the same time, your 7-year-old child has to deal with school. You're just pulled in all these different directions. But yeah, just to give that to yourself, something like a coloring book, for adults.
Or a G.I. Joe.
Or a G.I. Joe. And I'm sorry now I threw them all out. You know how much those bad boys are worth now? But
what? How much?
Well, if it's still in the original package, wait, what did I see before? I saw this years ago, but, let's just say a lot.
Oh, wow. That much,
That much, yes. Yes. So, okay.
All right.
Yeah, it's that. Thank you.
You're welcome. So in our third half, Charlie's prepared to talk about tombstones. And not the tombstone pizza, I'm assuming.
Silly girl. So, a tombstone. Also known as a headstone, also known as a gravestone or a marker, according to the internet, is a shaped stone laid over or erected near a grave, and usually bearing an inscription to identify and preserve the memory of the deceased. Now, a gravestone can also be a monument on a grave. An obsolete use for monument is a burial vault, which is also known as a sepulcher, which, besides being a receptacle for religious artifacts, especially in an altar, is also a place of burial. A place of burial, in other words, to bury, defined for our purposes, as disposing of remains by depositing them into the earth. In other words, to inter is particularly related to funeral ceremonies, which Merriam-Webster defines as to deposit a dead body, just to clarify that it's dead, to deposit a dead body in the earth or in a tomb. And please don't get me started on tombs. So, let's head back to Tombstone. Not Tombstone, Arizona, and the famous gunfight at the OK Corral, or even Tombstone Pizza. Rather, a shaped stone laid over or erected near a grave and usually bearing an inscription to identify and preserve the memory of the deceased. Nowadays, this definition also applies to headstones, gravestones, or a marker placed at the head of a grave. A footstone is a marker set at the foot of a grave. In the U.S., the earliest European immigrants created simple grave markers. Wood was a common material for centuries. Depending on what part of the country you lived in, stone carvers would use whatever rock was easily available, from sandstone or brownstone to eventually marble and limestone. But the natural elements wear down marble over time, making inscriptions difficult to read, or they just simply disappear. During the Victorian era, granite became a popular material to use for headstones due to its durability. Granite is a harder stone than marble and still allows for a lot of detail when inscribed. Stone grave markers go back to the ancient Greeks and Romans. Cemeteries, as we know them today, did not exist thousands of years ago. Families had burial plots near their homes so they could be buried together. Burial has been a part of Christian, Jewish, and Muslim traditions. Buddhists traditionally prefer cremations. With Hindus, cremation is the most common practice, though in some Hindu traditions, burial is accepted. Catholics and Christians prefer headstones and grave markers with religious symbols, such as crosses and angels. Headstones also offer genealogical information which provides a link to history. Churchyard burials and gravestones became popular in the mid-1600s. Simple instructions began to be carved. In the 1800s, gravestones became more significant, and inscriptions began to include a few more words about the deceased, such as date of birth, date of death, and the name of the deceased. During the Victorian era also, more elaborate monuments and gravestones appeared. Even the poor started to celebrate and remember the dead. War memorials to mark the sacrifices of soldiers began in earnest in the late 1800s. If you walk through a cemetery, you will see numerous carvings on, again, gravestones, tombstones, headstones, etc. For example, the American flag is generally found marking the graves of military veterans. Angels symbolize spirituality. They appear in different poses, each with a specific meaning. An angel with open wings represents the flight of the soul to heaven. A weeping angel symbolizes grief, especially for an untimely death. An angel blowing a trumpet may depict the day of judgment. A broken column indicates a life cut short, basically often a memorial to someone who died young. Of course, some columns may be broken due to vandalism. An ascending dove represents the transport of a soul to heaven. A dove lying dead symbolizes a life cut short. A dove holding an olive branch symbolizes that the soul has peace in heaven. And the list of carvings goes on. Now, graves without a headstone, for a marker or anything to indicate a buried body, is an unmarked grave. Metaphorically, an unmarked grave can represent a lack of respect or even contempt. However, unmarked graves could also be the result of widespread disease or war, or to hide a mass murder. Older stones deteriorate or are sometimes stolen, leaving no trace of who lies below. Conversely, sometimes folks just don't want a headstone. Others want privacy or to avoid vandalism. Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gianna have no marker. Other times, as with John Belushi, a cenotaph is erected. A cenotaph is an empty tomb or monument erected in one location while the remains of the person are somewhere else. Pet cemeteries also utilize headstones and markers. So let me ask you, what would you write on your headstone? Go to our website, everyonedies.org. That's dies.org for a link to a virtual headstone where you can write your own epitaph. Some examples Marianne found online include, "Now go away and leave me alone." Another tombstone said, "This ain't bad once you get used to it." A different headstone had something much longer. "My wife, Eleanor Arthur of Queens, New York, lived like a princess for 20 years, traveling the world with the best of everything when I went blind. She tried to poison me, took all my money, all my medication, and left me in the dark, alone and sick. It's a miracle I escaped. I won't see her in heaven because she'll surely go to hell."
Whoa.
And then another one, "Well, this sucks." So make it funny, make it inspirational. It's up to you, but you'll find a link on our website. So, thanks. Yes,
so
I'm
Charlie,
sorry.
what
Yes.
would yours? What would yours say?
I told you I was sick.
Oh man, that's mine.
Well, actually, it's not original. Do you remember Oscar Levant?
Right.
He was a musician, great piano player, great pianist, also occasional actor, and a full-time hypochondriac. And he had once said that that would be his epitaph, but it's not. But yeah.
I saw some related to COVID-19.
Oh.
That's one was, "I just wanted ice cream." I forget what the other ones were, but it was the same idea,
Yeah.
They didn't stay home.
Yes. Oh dear.
Well, that was really interesting. I tend to, when I travel, want to go look at cemeteries and tombstones. And we were in Charleston a few months ago, and we went to the Charleston cemetery, and there was something about the Charleston Marauders. And I said, "What the heck is that?" So we looked it up, and it was this group of young men who, during the Civil War, you can Google it, but it was during the Civil War, they were apparently quite well to do. He had to have a horse to get into the group, and a lot of drinking and gambling seemed to also go on. Mm-hmm. But they had their own drink, and it turned out that the place who made the drink was where we were going for lunch that day. So we went to lunch, and we had more than one, but they were so good. It was like this, it was iced tea and peach brandy and regular brandy. I don't know. I'll look it up and have Sandy put it on the webpage, because I'm telling you, it was good. Well, speaking of drinking, our third half, we're going to do a little day drinking with death in our recurring segment called Drinkin' with Death. So get yourself something to drink if you want to drink along with death, and I hope you enjoy our interview. I'm going to do a little day drinking today with our guest, Death. Hello, Death.
Hello, Marianne. How are you today?
Very well. What are you drinking today?
I felt like a pina colada.
Oh, so you like pina coladas?
Well, today is a day that just feels like I'd enjoy being at the beach, and there's nothing that connotes the beach to me more than a pina colada on the sand in the sunshine.
Well, and here I thought you were going to do the rest of the Getting Lost in the Rain song with me, but a girl can only hope, you know?
Right.
Well, I appreciate you having a drink with me and chatting. Um, let's see. Verlia from New York wants to know why me, because I have so much to do.
I hear that a lot. And my reply is always, well, why not you? What makes you so special? One of the things I observe many human beings, particularly the doers, the ones that are always busy, um, they're never settled. There's always something more to do. I think everyone has seen that cartoon, I Will Never Die, because I have so much in my inbox left to do. Well, it's not true. I will come for everyone. And to the person that says, well, why me? I think, what are you waiting for? What are you delaying that you could enjoy today? There's that book that was published not too long ago of Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and it's all small stuff. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of truth in that. The things I notice about people when they are their most genuine are when they are engaged in those uniquely human qualities of loving and appreciating one another, appreciating what they have rather than bemoaning what they don't have. That's what gives life its special qualities. And when someone has lived that way and I arrive, it's like the end of a nice party where if people have enjoyed themselves throughout the party and then it's time to go, they're ready to, they put on their coat and they walk out the door. When I come, when it's at its best, it's like that. Oh, it's time? I didn't realize. Okay, here, I'm coming.
Do you ever have people who so willingly put on their coat and go with you?
All the time. It's more common than most people realize. I notice the big disconnect between the person for whom I've come that is dying and the others around them. In general, they're much more prepared and ready. And so I would say it's the norm that when I come, the reaction ranges from, oh, now, okay, all right, to what kept you? I have been ready to go and you have not come. What kept you? So I get scolded occasionally. I usually just change the subject, and I just say, well, I'm here now and let's go.
I had a neighbor when I lived in New Hampshire who was taking care of his mother, and she was actually a Holocaust survivor and one of the few people that I saw with, the tattoo. And she was not talking anymore. She was a body in the bed. And he said, why is she still here? And I said, well, in my experience as a hospice nurse, they're still here. Maybe there's something that's left to do. And, ask yourself, what is there that's left to do? And after she died, he came over and he said, you were right. There were things that I guess he wanted to say to her and that he was finally able to say to her, and then she died. Do you have that experience?
I see that. I think the time before I come is trying to find meaning in that is a fundamentally spiritual experience. What is the meaning of life? And the doers, the people that always have something to do and need to tick off their list, are the ones that are most uncomfortable with sitting and waiting and just being. The ability to be with someone without doing is challenging. And yet I see that as a part of the preparation. What strikes me, I think one of the best messages that comes out of that is don't wait. The people that wait for some sign that, all right, it's time to say my last words is I haven't found anybody that minds repetition. I love you. Let's talk about the things that we enjoyed, that the things that gave our life meaning. There's no time like the present to say I love you or I appreciate you or I forgive you. Will you forgive me? I'm impressed with how much unforgiveness is an issue before I come.
Are you in the position in your role as death to give people more time to do that, or to in some way whisper in their ear, you need to do this? Because once you come, it's over. You don't get to say those things.
I think every human being has numerous triggers to get ready. I think it's not right to think, well, it's my job to give somebody the 15-minute warning, the 1-hour warning, the 1-day warning, the 2-day warning. Everybody knows I'm coming, and those triggers are in the environment, and all the losses that happen in terms of day-to-day normal human existence, when are times to say, oh, this could be the end. What would I regret? Is there someone I love that I want to say that? Is there someone I'm mad at that I desperately want reconciliation, or I'm afraid they're mad with me? I think that's the one that I find most heartbreaking, when the sense that something that needed to be healed wasn't, out of pride or something else. And you're right. When I'm come, it's just like, when the plane is leaving and they close the doors, they don't open the doors up again. It's there. Get your things ready beforehand.
I used to give my nursing students an assignment about, if you knew that you had a month left to live, what would be the things that you would want to do? And there would be so many students who would, some would say I'd get a divorce. There were some who said, I go skydiving. That was always a popular one. But there would be those who'd say, I would want to reconcile with my father. I would want to reconcile with my best friend. And so when I would write back to them in their assignment, I would say, well, you don't know that you don't have a month left to live. And so if this is something you think that you would want to do, that it's important, why aren't you doing it now? And I would have some students who would actually go to their dad or go to their best friend, and then they would write in their journal, I thought about that. I don't know if I have a month left. And so I did reconcile. And that can make all the difference in terms of how you approach and how you live your life.
That old adage, live each day as if it were your last, I think it helps people to avoid the kind of mistakes you're describing, where these things that are on their minds, why postpone it? If you can't work through a relationship and work through the problems, and it really would be better to build a new life, every day that goes on longer is just prolonged agony. And I assure you, that is far worse than the time of death, when death itself is painless, but it happens. When I come, time is up. So that living without regrets, enjoying time, making amends now rather than putting it off. I'm impressed with how many people are procrastinators. And they procrastinate about this stuff, just like they procrastinate about washing their sheets or making the bed or, buying a new set of shoes. This is the stuff you shouldn't procrastinate over. Because one of the things that's so repetitive is the sense of relief, as you described it. And overwhelming. And why did I wait so long? What was so frightening about addressing an old wound and saying, I wish we could, what can we do to put this behind us? Holding on to grudges seems to be something that people enjoy for reasons that I don't understand. But it does make them not ready to go when I come. And it's in people's power to have their emotional bags packed. So when I come, it's, okay, it's time. Hold my hand, here we go.
Well, we can all maybe strive to keep our bags packed and maybe more mindful about our lives. So I have to toast you, Death, with the pina coladas and getting lost in the rain and all the other things that one does. I really appreciate you drinking with me this afternoon, and I hope we'll be able to chat again.
I'd be delighted. Thank you.
Thank you. Salute.
Salute.
That's it. Thank you for listening. Please stay tuned for future episodes of Everyone Dies. Our thanks to our executive producer, retired Major General David, our producer Sandy, John, our technical advisor, and our friends, family, and our loyal listeners who are supporting our work at Everyone Dies. This is Charlie Navarrete.
And I'm Marianne Matzo.
And we look forward to talking with you soon. Be safe.
Stay healthy. Wash your hands.
Yes. Bye.
Yes. Bye.
This podcast does not provide medical advice. All discussion on this podcast, such as treatments, dosages, outcomes, charts, patient profiles, advice, messages, and any other discussion are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for professional medical advice or treatment. Always seek the advice of your primary care practitioner or other qualified health providers with any questions that you may have regarding your health. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard from this podcast. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. Everyone Dies does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, practitioners, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned in this podcast. Reliance on any information provided in this podcast by persons appearing on this podcast at the invitation of Everyone Dies or by other members is solely at your own risk.